Well, Evan Kenny is joining us for the sports panel, and we're talking about the World Hockey Championships wrapped up very recently, Evan, with Canada taking home another gold medal. Evan, it's a very interesting storyline. I guess it's a very heartwarming storyline, to say the least, because at the beginning of the tournament, everyone pretty much wrote Canada out, starting 0-3, losing to teams like Latvia and, Kazakhstan as well. So talk about this team and how they rallied around together to end up winning the tournament.
Yeah, well, Connor, people counted them out even before they started off 0-3. Just looking at those rosters before the tournament started, while Canada, yes, is obviously the powerhouse of the hockey world, that roster was not really looking like a typical Canadian roster that you would see. So they were kind of counted out from the beginning. And then just to add on to that, starting off 0-3, like you said, barely making the quarterfinal rounds there. It was really just an uphill climb the entire way. Connor, up until this past tournament here, a single team who went 0-3 in the men's or the women's tournament had never won. So it was definitely an uphill climb there. But as the games got more important, as the tournament got along going, Canada's offense really started to click, and for me, it really started in that power play. I mean, you look in the finals, they potted a couple power play goals there, and that was a huge key to getting their offense going and ultimately winning the championship there.
And of course, with Finland's goalie playing absolutely unreal, one of the highlight players of that tournament. And another highlight for Canada, I guess, on the bench was Gerard Gallant, the way that he rallied his team around together. Of course, he's an unrestricted free agent when it comes to coaching, so it won't be surprising that he's going to end up somewhere in the NHL next year. So just talk about his impact and what he had to say in that room throughout that tournament when they were down.
Yeah, I mean, Connor, this is his second gold medal at the World Championships. First one as a head coach there. And I mean, when he was let go by the Vegas Golden Knights 2 years ago there, I think everybody, the entire hockey world was shocked. Gerard Gallant is such a good coach, and he's so good at rallying the troops in such a short amount of time. I mean, he turned around the Florida Panthers franchise before he went over to Vegas. Obviously, we all know what he was able to do with Vegas in that first season there. And then, in this World Championship here, team starts off 0-3. That veteran leader of a coach, he was able to turn that group around and really get them going. Another thing that I love, Connor, about Gerard Gallant is he's so good with these young players. I mean, we saw it at the World Cup of Hockey a number of years ago when he was the head coach of Team North America, that Young Guns team. I mean, he just works so well with these young guys, and they do a great job of buying in. In my opinion, Connor, I think he will be going to the Seattle Kraken this upcoming season, and wow, is Seattle lucky to have a great coach if he does end up going there.
And of course, there are a few other options for him. Columbus and the Rangers have spoken extensively with Gerard Gallant. Speaking of Seattle, of course, they are holding the #2 spot in the draft, and there were a few draft-eligible players in this tournament, including Canada, Owen Power, and for the USA, Matt Beniers, expected to go 1-2 by some mock drafts there, Evan. So talk about some of these draft-eligible players and how they performed on this stage against the men.
I mean, Connor, Owen Power just jumped off the page there. He had a fantastic tournament, and in my opinion, he really solidified himself as the #1 overall pick at this upcoming draft. I mean, obviously, he's a huge-bodied defenseman, but he's got the strength and the maturity that quite often you don't see from those young defensemen. Typically, young D-men take a couple more years than a forward do to develop, which might scare off some teams, but Owen Power is really the whole package. I mean, you saw it, his skating ability, his mental awareness. He was fantastic and able to join in on the rush. Now, he only had 3 points in those 10 games, but he was an absolute force in those last 3 games. He played a minimum of 24 minutes in each game, including 27 against the U.S. there. So, I mean, just a fantastic D-man there. And then Matt Beniers, not quite the same pedigree in my mind as Owen Power, but still a fantastic skilled forward who, like you said, could be a projected #2 overall, possibly the top forward in this upcoming draft here. So it'll be interesting to see, how playing against these pro guys, how the scouts take that into account.
And of course, with Beniers, it wasn't a huge opportunity for him. He didn't play a whole lot of minutes, like you said there. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with the draft. And of course, it's always fun to watch some young guys at this tournament. And one of the last things, Evan, was just standout players to you. For me, I'll start here with Connor Brown, of course, who led the tournament there in scoring and was just a really good dominant force. And he has been for the Ottawa Senators, providing some good secondary scoring for the Senators. Of course, Nick Paul, who scored the overtime winner, did really well at the tournament. But if there was somebody in your mind, Evan, that played really well for Team Canada, who would it be?
Yeah, and just to add on to your point quickly there, Connor, I mean, what a great goal there by Nick Paul and Connor Brown. That 2-on-1 started off by a great defensive face-off there. So, yeah, fantastic one, and Connor Brown really was a driving force. But another guy for Team Canada who I think was a driving force on and off the ice was Adam Henrique. I mean, he was tied for being the oldest player on Team Canada. He was one of just 3 players who had been to this tournament before, and before the tournament started, he was given the captaincy. So, I mean, the team was leaning on him in the dressing room, but then when it came to an on-ice performance, he was their top face-off man, tied with Andrew Mangiapane for second in team scoring with 11 points. And, I mean, he just really came to play, scoring a goal in that final game. Really, Canada, a lot of the guys, they found their role as the tournament went on, but I think Adam Henrique had a huge role on and off the ice there.
And of course, also one of the last things we're going to talk about here is really quickly here. We're going to mention it later this week here on Primetime Local News. Some big news out of Lakeland today with the announcement of the women's hockey team. Evan, I know it's still early, but what do we know so far?
Yeah, well, so far, they're going to be starting in the Alberta Junior Female Hockey League there before joining the ACAC in the fall of 22. It's all pretty early as of right now, Connor, but this will be a community-based team, and, they're really hoping to expand the Lloydminster female hockey culture here, which has just been exploding there. So big things coming from Lakeland College soon.
And it's really exciting to see, and hopefully they can be joining the ACAC and add another team to the Rustlers family. Evan, Kenny, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Connor.